little bit of a surprise tutorial. We're going to do some DIY tonight. It's been a little bit since I've had some craft time, and I did get some in today, but we do our big craft night on Thursday night, so tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And we've had a lot of people asking questions about how to use some of the products. So I thought I would pop in and do a little tutorial. I do have most of the items that I'll be using tonight available in our buy it now section. I'm not auctioning off anything tonight. I am just strictly doing some crafts. If you want to buy anything, you can go to the buy it now. Otherwise, you're just going to watch me create with the products that we sell, some of the products we sell on Thursdays, which is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I am going to start us off because I have some water that I've gotten hot. And so I want to start with this step because if I wait, the water won't be hot anymore and I'll have to either take a break or whatever. So I have some warm water and I have some Fusion milk paint, and this is the color Vintage Laurel. I have put all that I have currently in stock in the Bite Now, both in testers and in the pint sizes. So I have 50 grams and 200 grams. I'm going to show you how to use it. If you want any other colors, you can go to my website and purchase those there. But I just have the colors that I'm using tonight. So I do want you to be able to see that it comes in a powder form. And this, for whatever reason, really freaks people out. I don't know why, but it does. So we're going to start off by showing you how to mix up the powder to turn it into paint. And this takes a little bit of time. So like I said, I've got warm water, which is really the key, in my opinion, to getting this really good. So we're going to start off, wrong way. We're going to start off with the warm water and the paint. You know what? I'm going to grab a riser real quick just to get this a little bit closer for you. Okay. I have this a little bit high today because we're going to be doing drawers next, and I'm going to put those on the table to make it easy for me. So this step is a little bit harder. And I typically mix this in a red Solo cup, not a pretty clear jar. But I decided to use the clear jar tonight because really I wanted you to be able to see what's happening. And so that just made a little bit of sense. So I buy these by the truckload, I feel like, and then the smaller ones as well, because I've started moving all of my paint into these containers. Okay, so first off, we're going to use a tester, and we're going to use most of what's in here. But if I'm being honest, I never buy the tester size, so I'm not exactly sure how many scoops are in here, how many tablespoons are in here. And I suspect that this one tester will be enough for me to paint the side table that's pictured here in your stream. You know what? I need to turn my iPad on too because I can't see any comments way over there with this bright light in my face. So I see people coming in. We are not doing an auction tonight. We do have stuff in the buy it now section, but this is just going to be a craft with me tutorial. Okay, and there I am. Hey. Thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate it. Gosh, I'm surprised there's 13 people in here. That feels shocking. And I really should turn my laptop on too so I can see Facebook. Because I did figure out how to stream to Facebook. But it doesn't combine the comments. Sorry, guys. Being a little disorganized here. There we go. Facebook. And find Vintage B. There it is. There I am. Okay, now I can read comments in both places. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so we're going to find out how many scoops are in a tester first off. And so I've got my little clear scoops here. This is a 1 tablespoon scoop. So 1, 2, I think there's about 5, but 3. Yeah, I'm going to say there's about 5. We're going to go with 5. Yeah. It's about 5 tablespoons. And so now I've got my warm water. It's a little less warm than it started out, but 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So really that's as easy as it goes. It is about it is basically 1 scoop of powder to 1 scoop of water. It doesn't require that it be warm water. I just find it easier. And here is a secret. If it's thicker than you like it, you can add more water. And if it's thinner than you like it, then you can add more powder. So, but the ratio is generally speaking 1 to 1. So I just need to be able to see. This color is a really lovely color. It's actually strangely, I must have been in that mood today when I was picking things. It's very similar to, I guess it's got more green in it, but it's sort of like the lichen here. I guess it definitely has more minty green in it. Sort of a sagey green. Oh man, I'll have to check it out. I was streaming live whatnot. Oh, I didn't realize that somebody was on. I didn't think any of my friends were on whatnot tonight. I was purposely trying to look for a time when I wasn't competing against anybody. Okay, so you can see right now that it is, I might need a spoon to really show you. What do I have? Oh, I'll use the brush that I'm going to paint with it. So you can see it's pretty drippy right now. I do actually sell a defrother from Miss Mustard Seed. If the froth bothers you, but it doesn't bother me there. You can kind of see it's pretty liquidy. But the truth is that the minerals haven't really mixed all the way up yet. It takes about 10 minutes for this to set. So I am just going to sit this aside for now until we're ready to paint the table. Not going to do anything, just going to let the minerals absorb all the water, and we're going to move on to the drawers while we let that happen. You can close it, you can not close it. I'm just going to close it a little bit so it's not flopping out there. I'm going to set that aside, and we'll come back to it later. It's generally how I do things. I'm going to need a wet paper towel, so I'm going to steal some of this one, because now that I've gotten my brush wet, I just want to keep it nice and clean. What makes milk paint special compared to other paints? What a good question. So milk paint is one of my favorite paints because it has a natural chippy quality. It also typically, as its nature, requires fewer coats, but you are going to get a little bit more of a translucent and less thick coverage. And when I'm painting, I'll kind of go over this more, but basically what happens is where there are oils in the furniture, whether it's, so back up for a second. I tend to find milk paint to be most useful and most beneficial on old wooden pieces, ones that have vintage antique ones, not modern new ones. You don't want to be painting this necessarily on anything that has a shine. So dull pieces that their top coats or whatever or waxes have mostly worn off. Nothing with a heavy poly. But basically where drawers have been touched over time, where like hand oils and things like that have worn in to the pieces, the paint resists soaking in there. And so it will, basically it binds by, it'll shrink slightly as it dries. If you think about the way, like a puddle of milk or whatever, it'll shrink up and there'll be cracks in it. And so milk paint tends to do that naturally. And so if you have a place where it hasn't been able to sink in, it's going to crackle. And in some places, it will actually fleck off completely. It will not have any stick-to-itiveness. And we're going to show you how to create that. If you have a piece that maybe doesn't naturally have oils in it already because it's been previously painted or it's raw wood. So we're going to show you how to create that naturally when we get to that piece. But basically, the reason you would want to use milk paint is it's super satiny finish, and I don't mean sheen satin. I mean feel like just this. It's so unbelievably soft. It has little different pigments that streak through it because it's a powder and not a liquid. I mean, it is a liquid when we're painting, but all those minerals didn't necessarily come together in a big pot, just in small batches. And then naturally, it is got that crackle or chippy finish that's really hard to recreate with any other paint, and not even like a crackle. A crackle, when you're using an actual crackle product, that's very different than the look that milk paint creates. This is the most natural looking worn finish you're going to get because it really has to do with the oils that are in the furniture in the natural aging of the piece over time. I hope that makes sense. It'll probably make more sense when we actually paint. In the meantime, I'm going to push these away and pull a drawer up. So I've kind of tried to do this like they do in baking shows, where I've got 4 drawers and I've got them in various states of accomplishment. So this one, the inside of the drawers are painted, but the side of the drawers are not painted. Does it seem? Okay. They are not painted, and that's because I want to show you what Fusion mineral paint. So we've got the milk paint sitting, but now we're going to go to Fusion mineral paint, which is this one. This is an all-in-one paint. This has paint, primer, and top coat built into it. And I didn't have the lid tightened, so I want to be sure that I don't accidentally spill this all over my nearly completed piece. So basically, the reason you might want to choose this paint is, again, because it has all of those features. You don't have to prime. It will generally, even light colors, generally resist any kind of bleed through. If you have the really dark red pieces that you know are going to bleed, like old cherry, I probably would still shellac it. I don't think I'd prime it, but I'd probably give it a good shellac anyway. But basically, this doesn't require prep and it doesn't require finishing. So it's a one and done paint product. If you want this exact color, I have some in the buy it now. If you want different colors, we sell them on a website. So, but we're going to show you what kind of coverage this has. We're going to start off with the sides of the drawers because that's what I have for the raw side. Make my correct brush here. And for this, we are using the color Lichen. Like I said, I've been trying to move from these bottles because if you saw my YouTube video where it splattered all over my table, you know that's exactly why I hate them. So I'm moving from all the bottles into these little jars, or the bigger jars if necessary. But really, I like the little jars, and my paintbrushes fit in them very nicely. So again, this is the color Lichen by Fusion, Lichen. So I'm going to show you on this sort of what 1 and 2 coat coverage looks like, because you see there's writing on here, and this is that golden oak and was previously stained. And so we're just going to take our brush. This is a Klingon S30. And we are going to make quick work of this. Ta-da! How fast and easy was that? Look at that lovely coverage. Obviously, it's still wet, but Hey, just dropping in to see this for a minute before I have to run to the taco truck. Tacos. We have fried chicken waiting at home. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn waiting at home. So, yeah. Okay. So we'll get these sides done. Honestly, I don't even personally think that they need a second coat, but I usually like to do 2 coats. One thing about Fusion is it's funny because we sell paint in our booth at Great American Antique Mall. People ask regularly, well, which paint is your favorite? Or which paint would you recommend? And the truth is, I recommend a different paint depending on the project. So, and your skill level, being honest. I'm going to say Fusion is one of the most user-friendly paints out there. And it's also one of the strongest, the most durable. And the reason for that is because it has the primer and the top coat built in. Unlike traditional chalk paints, you can't ever, or like say a clay-based paint, you can never get through the top coat, right? If you were to top coat a table or kitchen cabinets and you used chalk paint or clay paint, and then you had to put a top coat over it, eventually, theoretically, you could use your sponge if you were cleaning and eventually get through that top paint, hit the paint layer, and even then go through to the primer, right? And then go through to the wood. You could actually get through those different layers. With Fusion mineral paint, because it's all built into one, if you get through it, you're getting down to wood. And let me tell you that I like my furniture distressed. And we have, on accident before, painted a piece and set it aside thinking we'll get back to it tomorrow. We'll let it dry tonight, get it back to it tomorrow, or, in a couple days. And a week has gone by or 2 weeks have gone by. And I'm telling you, I couldn't distress that thing with an orbital sander. It is hands down the most durable paint I've ever tried. There are other all-in-one paints, but hands down, this is the most durable and the most easy to use in combination. Okay. The thickness of the paint, as you saw, was nice and not thin. It's got great coverage, but it's not thick like you're used to seeing with a chalk paint. So that's 1 coat down. This is what 2 coats looks like. And that's the actual sheen of it, which is not much of a sheen. It has not quite a matte finish, but maybe more of a flat finish. But it's a very nice, soft paint. This has been dry maybe for about an hour now. But this is, again, the color lichen. So I'm going to wrap up my brush, and I am going to paint the inside. And you can see what 1 coat of cream over the same golden oak looks like, and then what coat number 2 will look like. We're doing this like cake style. Like if they bake those cakes on the cooking show, and then they open up the oven and pull out the freshly baked cake. That's kind of how I'm trying to function this. Let me just double check Facebook here. Hey Teresa, how are you? Good to see you on here. Okay, let me close my lichen because y'all know I'm a hot mess and have this great tendency to spill things. Y'all have seen that in my shows before. All right, so now I'm just going to pull out the brush. This is an S50 angled brush, so I think it's called an S50A. And we're going to go, ran out of that jar, so I opened up a new jar of plaster. So we're going to go with the inside. I'm going to stand this up so y'all can see it better. It is really easy to use. There was a question I earlier saw. Thinking of painting my staircase railing black. Yes, this is the perfect. And I'm actually going to use it to paint my fireplace, both the brick and the wood. I'll have a video of that coming up whenever I actually have time to get it finished, because we built out kind of a faux mantle and stuff on that. with some Would You Bend and some molds and stuff. And so I've got to find time to actually paint it now. So that'll be eventually a video. So this is one coat coverage in the drawer. You can see there are some streaks, but honestly, for a light color, that is still pretty good. So ideally, you'd never want to dip your brush more than halfway into the paint. And then it is just as easy as gliding your brush. If you start to get resistance, you just want to pull back and grab a little more paint. This paint is self-leveling, but in order for it to level, you do have to have enough paint for it to actually level itself. So it will leave you a nice finish. If you want a streak-free finish, you need to use a sponge, so like a sponge brush. That is how you get that factory finish, either that or spray, one or the other. And the nice thing with Fusion is if you do spray, if you like to spray your furniture pieces, is in most situations, Fusion does not need to be watered down. So unlike chalk paints where, you need to water it down and then put it through a strainer and do all that good stuff, Fusion does not need to be watered down. It is the perfect consistency most of the time, new, fresh, out of the bottle, to go through a sprayer. Now, let's see, I got a question over here on Facebook. Love that brush you have. Is it in your shop? Yes, it is. It is in Great American. It's not off of San Jose. It's off of Phillips Highway. So we have it in our booth at Great American off Phillips Highway, and it is also available to be shipped on our website. This is the shorty. I like the shorties because they have the little short handles. So when you do chair rungs and things, they're it's out of your way. It fits nicely in your palm. And then this is the 2-inch angle. So it's the S50 angle. But my paint is always, I love Fusion paint, but my go-to paint is always Waverly. But Waverly doesn't have a lot. We have like 3 or 4 dark blues, I'm going to say. Okay, I'm almost done with this drawer. I know this part is probably getting a little bit boring, which is why I kind of tried to, do my cake show method. But you can see, I think I've gotten all of it now. Oh, the other thing about Fusion when you're painting is you always want to use a synthetic brush, not a natural bristle brush. It will make a big difference in your paint. So can you see? That is pretty nice coverage for 2 coats. Don't you think? I think so. Especially with such a light color. Okay. Now we're going to decoupage the inside. So this is one I did earlier so that you can see the finished look. This particular paper is in one of the new Prima papers. This is Romance in Bloom. And it comes with 3 different papers. So there's this one. How pretty is that? We're going to do that here. It's so pretty. It comes with that one. It comes with, move this out of the way. It comes with that one. This one, I can't wait to use. It comes with this one. So pretty. And it comes with, where's my third one? What did I do with it? I apparently dropped it somewhere. And it comes with a third one that's somewhere here. Oh, there it is. Just it's somewhere here on the table or floor near me. And it comes with this one, which is perfect for doing dressers and things because you usually need more than 1 sheet. And these are in the Buy It Now section. They're so pretty. And I don't know if you can tell, but these are a heavier weight, which the nice thing about that is if you're doing something like a drawer or the side of a cabinet. Drawers in particular are difficult to do and get it all level and straight exactly the first time, is these will not tear when you reposition them. So you can lift them up, pull them out, and completely reposition them without tearing them, which I had to do a couple of times to get that drawer done. And when you are decoupaging, one of the reasons that I chose the color putty is because you need to have a light color behind it, and that will make your images pop. If you paint it a darker color, your images are going to be very dark because the lighter areas are not going to be as bright because they're a little bit transparent. So let me just show you this drawer again, and then I'll get to decoupaging the next drawer. Not pretty. So pretty, and you can see how vibrant all the florals are, and that is because they have that putty behind them. Thank you, Teresa. I think I saw a question on the Whatnot feed. Fusion does have gorgeous colors. If you were painting something like kitchen cabinets, or I have used this to paint tile, like terracotta tile, in my kitchen, the backsplash. And like my husband's Italian, so we do a lot of Italian cooking, and spaghetti sauce, all that, scrubbing it off. It was perfect. So as long as there is, again, as long as it's not a shiny finish. So these were matte tiles because they were more like a terracotta, so they were a little more porous, so it will stick on there. If you're doing something that has a high finish already, I'm going to recommend, even though this has a primer, that you either scuff sand or you use a product that Fusion sells called Ultra Grip. And basically that's going to bind to that shiny surface. Whereas Fusion, again, it does have a built-in primer, but if it's something super slick, like a heavy poly or like a laminate, it is not going to be as durable unless you put that Ultra Grip first. Do you seal after applying the paper? With the Prima papers, you do not have to. They are like a fabric on there. I do typically, after I put it down, we're going to do it here in a second, I put the first layer down, and then if I feel like it is not durable enough, if it's not sticking well enough, then I'll, after it's completely dry, I'll put another coat, and that'll sink through the fabric and ensure that it is permanent. But generally speaking, that piece that I just showed you, I did not put a top layer over that yet. If I feel like I need to, I can, or like in the corners or something, if I feel like I need to, but I do not feel that I have to. And again, when you're using these heavier papers from Prima, I do prefer to use a decoupage medium as opposed to a top coat. If you're using papers, like actual paper, like JRB paper or thin rice paper, things like that, then you can use a top coat. I typically use either Big Top or Liquid Patina by DIY Paint. Those are good choices for those kinds of things. But if I actually am using these heavier papers, I either use Fusion's decoupage medium or I use Prima's decoupage medium. Those are the two products I like. Let me seal this up and we will move on to decoupaging, and I will show you how I size out my papers and drawers too. I feel like we're doing like a speed round crafting. Okay. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight, though. I had no idea if anybody would even show up for me crafting, to be honest. So it is appreciated. Okay. So for the rest of the drawers, I actually picked out a different medium, but I have 4 drawers, and my papers only had their packs of 3. So I didn't want them to repeat. So what I decided to do, oh yay, thank you so much. Oh, awesome. I'm so glad you guys are enjoying it. So these are the 3 papers that are coming in with this pack. I believe the pack is 22, which is typically we sell these one at a time for $8. So you do save a couple dollars by buying them. So this is one. This is paper 2. And this set is the, did I say? This is the Dreamy Delights. And again, they are in the Buy It Now section. This is paper number 2. And this is paper number 3. So I picked out the other one from the other set. You can see this one can go in either direction. Actually, because this one goes so well this way, I might choose one from that other set and save this one for a different project. Look how pretty that is, though. Can't you just see that like on a canvas? Or what a great way to upcycle an old piece of artwork, right? And make it something completely new. Hey, Lisa Horner, sorry. Okay, I think I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to substitute one of those others because I want to save this in its horizontal fashion. Now, what did I do with the others? I hid them for myself. I don't want to use the birds, so I'll use this one for that 4th drawer. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to adjust the camera so you guys can see a little better. You won't be able to see my face while I do this, though. Okay. So we're going to adjust so you can see the drawer better. So you do want to have your 2 full coats on your drawer. You want it to be nice and dry. I like Fusion for this. Anytime I decoupage, I tend to grab Fusion because it has that built-in top coat, which means that I don't have to worry if I have to put this on and pull this off, that my paint underneath is going to reactivate and be an issue for me. So you can go a couple different ways. If you're super okay, so some people want to steam this or iron this. It is basically a fabric, so you can do that on a light setting. I would recommend steaming it over ironing it. If you're going to iron it, I probably would put a damp rag between. But again, this is not friendly to cut when it's damp. So I prefer to try to get either most of the cutting done before it goes in the drawer, or I prefer to cut it off after it's dry and just try not to leave residuals. So these papers are, I believe 19 or 19 and a half. They're 19 and a half by 30. So you can see they are almost perfect, even for a nice size drawer like this. So I'm not going to worry about it being completely perfect. I'm going to try to worry about making this easy on myself. So I'm trying to basically line up one corner, square that off, and then on my bigger side, which is actually the side nearest you, let me flip this. You know what? I'll do it the other way. I will do it the other way so you guys can see better. I will square this side up. I usually do it farther away from me because it's easier for me. But in this case, I'm going to just line up that first corner. I'm lining up this corner. I know you can't see that. And this straight edge. And then I'm going to try to basically pull it so that it is fairly square in the drawer. And then I am going to, you could just cut it now, but I find there's an easier way. We're just going to fold this right here because we haven't positioned it down yet. There's no medium, there's no glue yet. So I can make mistakes right now. And I'm going to give that a really nice crease, like a really good crease. Okay. And I don't know if you can see it, but can you see my crease I just made right here? Right. So this is my crease. Now I'm just going to try it back in my drawer to be sure that that was right. Measure twice, cut once. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to give it a really good crease with my fingers. I want to be sure that that my line is obvious. So make sure that I give it a really good crease. Really good crease. And then I'm going to take the absolute worst scissors in the world because I could not find my good scissors. They are somewhere in this workroom. And I'm going to, with it folded still, I'm going to cut this apart. Again, these are the world's worst scissors. Sorry, wish this is where I would normally fast forward it and put on some music for you guys, or just, clip to the next scene. But we're live, so I can't do that. Makes it a little more difficult. Again, if you do like these products, they are in the Buy It Now section over here on Whatnot. And tomorrow night, we will be doing a big craft show. So we will have lots of amazing DIY products available for you. Goes this way. And I'm not worried about these creases right now. Thank you for sharing my live stream. I appreciate it. All right, and now I'm going to basically do the same thing here in the corner, which I know is just about a ½ inch. So just to make my life easy, I'm going to fold it about ½ inch over. And I know this because I already did one for her. And these decoupage papers are all the same size. So I'm going to fold it about a ½ inch. And then cut this. Now, if you had a straight edge and a rolling and a rotary cutter like I do at home, but I do not here, that would be really handy as well. You get a really perfect straight cut for that. But let's be real, most of us don't have all that when we're doing furniture on the fly. But don't you like how you can crease it and the line is still there, even though it's basically like a fabric? Okay, so now we've got our flutterbys and our paper all ready to go. And I love it when it has words because then it helps me know which side is up and which direction it goes. All right, so there we go for that. All right, now we're going to put the decoupage medium down. So like I said, when you're using this heavier paper, I prefer a decoupage medium over using like a top coat. Oh, is Fusion here with us? Wow. All right. So we are using the Fusion decoupage medium for this project. And I'm going to start off by putting it right in the middle in a fairly heavy fashion. I do not have this in the Buy It Now because I am sold out. We are putting it in order on Monday. So if you do want to pre-order it, you can go to the website and pre-order it, and I will ship it when it comes in. All right, so now we're gonna take the paper and see, this is where I said we can reposition it. So I'm gonna try to line it up fairly perfect, as perfect as I can be here right in the middle. Starting on one side and just using my hand, I'm gonna push up all the way, okay? And I'm gonna use my hand to work out any of these wrinkles, which is why I don't typically worry too much if it's perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to just pull back this side, and we are going to go and do this side. You'll notice this brush is really good for this. It holds a lot of medium for me to slather around. And this is a DIY paintbrush. DIY as in the company DIY paint. And again, I'm just going to use my hands, push it out. And that will get all the wrinkles out. I'm going to work it right to the edges. If you find any bubbles or anything, you can just lift it back. I got it on my drawer sides. I'm not worried about that. All right. I'm just going to fold this side back and do the same thing. Nothing fancy or tricky about it. Same thing, using my hand at the middle, just gonna push it right over. Now, this may not be 100% square, but here's a sneaky little trick. I do not want to cut this because fabric will tear when I cut it. But if I use my knife, I can kind of push it under. Typically, I can push it under this little back ledge. And if not, then it'll keep it from sticking there. So this is the little bit area. This corner, I don't think has enough medium on it. I can lift it up and put more. But what I'm actually going to do is just let this whole thing dry. And when I let the whole thing dry, then I can put a little bit more in this corner. But I do not think that I need to put any on the top because it feels really good and secure. I'll judge it when it's dry. What do you guys think? Pretty easy. Isn't it pretty? So pretty. So pretty. All right. Now, I just got to do that to the rest of my drawers, but not with you guys. Cake manner. You saw what it looked like when it was finished. You now see what the second drawer looks like basically finished. You've seen how it paints. So we're all good. I'm going to open my soda and take a drink real quick. And then we're going to move over. Well, we're going to check the paint first, and then we're going to move over to paint the table. Is this okay? Well, there went that pen. Is this okay, guys? Are you enjoying it? Are you learning something? Are you just, I don't know, happy to not be at work right now? And I'm just going to wrap up my paintbrushes in a damp paper towel, and that will keep everything from drying. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so earlier, hopefully you were here, but if not, we mixed up our Fusion milk paint. I was looking for the packet, but often I'm disorganized, which y'all know about me already. No surprises there. So I don't know what I did with it, but it is Fusion milk paint. And so see at the bottom, you can see it got thick and clumpy. I don't know if you can, at the bottom, it got clumpy. And that's getting absorbed into all that mineral. So I'm just gonna mix it up. And this is why I said, it seems really thin at first because it's gotta absorb all that water, and then you gotta mix it up again. And this is a tester size, just so you guys know. We're going to see how far this tester goes, which we determined was about 5 tablespoons. So 5 tablespoons of powder, 5 tablespoons of water. All right, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I will say the thicker your paint, the chippier it is likely to be. But I want to show you guys some tips and tricks. And for those of you who have been on our Thursdays already and maybe even purchased some of the Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint at Quite the Deal, we have discontinued Miss Mustard Seeds, mostly because we carry Fusion mineral paint now, and selling 2 competing products is really tricky, especially when they're basically the same product. And the Fusion, it's just easier for us than going through a third product. And the Miss Mustard Seed is basically exactly the same, especially if you're using the old Miss Mustard Seed, because Fusion is manufactured by Homestead House, a company in Canada, and they used to manufacture the old Miss Mustard Seed. If you're using the new Miss Mustard Seed, now that's made in the USA. And I really they were my favorite, but like I said, we carry Fusion and sell a lot of Fusion mineral paint. So it was just a natural progression to carry the milk paint. People were asking and we brought it in. All right. Let's take our milk paint brush, our milk paint, and, well, you guys, right? going to take me a minute to transition this over there. Give me 1 second and I shall return with you. I'll bring you over there. Give me just a moment. Ah, you're flying. Okay, we're going to bring you down here. Okay, get a little cozy on the floor. Adjust my angles here a little bit for this. So this is a table that I've had in my possession for a very long time. This was one of the very first things that I ever milk painted. And this was done with Miss Mustard Seed. Like I said, a really, really long time ago. There's nothing wrong with it other than it used to have a marble top and it does not anymore. And the top is now super chippy. It's kind of partially sitting on carpet and not, so it is a little wonky. But I wanted to show you, I wanted to repaint this table and make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more with the colors that are today, and show you some tips and tricks along the way. If you are on Facebook, I am sorry, but I cannot bring my laptop over here. So I don't. Well, of course, that's where my good scissors are. I told you they were here somewhere. You know, sometimes they're right in front of your face and you do not see them. But I should not be using my good scissors to open a can of wax. But I'm on the floor now and I'm not getting up again to find the paint opener. Usually I don't close this well enough that I can't finger open it. Oh, but apparently it is brand new. So I will say wax is one of the things that I can completely say I have a favorite, and that is DIY wax. Hands down my favorite. So to paint this, we don't have to do anything. This surface, this is really old. It was originally really old when it got painted. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. It was old. It does not have any kind of slickness or any kind of surface. This is going to be super porous. Just a little bit so you can see me a little bit. So it's going to be super porous. And I kind of mentioned it earlier if you were here, but the way milk paint works is basically it's going to absorb into the wood in some places, and that will, or whatever the finish was before, and that'll make it typical like any other paint. However, in some areas where it's been touched a lot, like where drawer handles are, tops of drawers, things like that, where you might have gotten a lot of oils from your hands, then that's going to resist it. It's basically not going to sink into there. It's not going to attach to the surface, and it's going to either crackle or it's going to flake off completely. Okay. But this piece, it's never really been touched like this, right? So it's not going to have any oil buildup, which means I'm going to create some of my own. So I'm going to put some areas here where I actually want it to have just a little bit chippy. You can see some areas where it kind of naturally had it anyway, but I want to change that up a little bit, and I want to actually give it areas where, you know what, I want to show you this leg because you can see kind of how it naturally chips by itself. Can you see how this is like chippy down here? That's just like how it didn't adhere, or in the middle here, that's just how it didn't adhere. There was still some residual finish on those areas, and so it flaked off. But because it's been so long, I personally think that it's even going to stick to those areas. So I want to ensure that it doesn't. So I've got some free wood here down at the bottom. So where that is, I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm going to go right over that, not too sparingly. I want there to be a good resist right there. And I'm going to do this up here a little bit. And because it's got this yellow and then this kitchen scale undertone, I want some of that to stay. I want you to be able to see some of that under what I'm painting now. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of this wax kind of around this. I'm going to make it so that it doesn't have too much of the ability. Now, some of it may stick because again, this is super porous. So it may, in fact, go through some of this, but I want to create some resistance. And I'm going to create a little more maybe over here in this area. You could do this with a brush if you have an issue with touching wax. I do not. I think wax is yummy. So I'm going to add just some little spots. I don't need them to be too big, but I do still kind of want to see the reference of what this used to be. I don't want to get rid of all of my hard work from a few years ago. And I'm just going to do this front for you. Okay. So take my brush here. That's what we dipped in earlier. This was the decoupage brush. I am going to have to go get the other brush. I grabbed the incorrect brush. Okay, now I got my right brush. I don't know what would have happened if I would have used the decoupage medium brush, frankly. So I'm just going to make sure that I am at least pulling a little bit from the bottom of my brush. And I'm just going to paint like you would paint anything. Now where I have this wax here, I'm not going to paint too hard. I don't want to pull the wax off, right? So I'm kind of going to pat over it. But I don't know if you can see it, and I'll pull the brush. I'll pull it in so you can, so I can be sure you can see it. But you can see the resist that's happening already. Can you see that right there? That is it resisting the paint. It is not sticking. It is pooling off. So when this is dry, there's no way that's going to stay there. Okay. Let's keep painting. I'm not going to paint this whole table for you guys because you'll be bored by then. But I at least want to get this area around the front so we can see what happens. And I forgot to ensure that I had an area here where my paint gun or my heat gun would plug in. So that might take me a minute too. If you don't want to use like the soft wax for this, you can use like a wax puck or a clear candlestick. I don't recommend a colored candlestick because you will be able to see the wax through the finish. And so, that could totally turn your piece a different direction than you wanted it to go. But you can see how easy this paints. I still have almost all my jar. So I totally believe a tester will paint this whole table. Maybe not the top. We'll see at the end. I'll let you guys know tomorrow night on our live feed. Oh, and assuming that it gets here because it's en route on Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, we are going to reveal the new Prima release that launches Friday at noon from Prima. So we're going to do that live here on Whatnot, and you will be able to buy your all the new releases, all the release that I bought in stock will be available to you Monday at noon right on Whatnot. We are going to unbox everything live and let you all bid on it. Not bid, it'll be in the buy it now. Sorry. We're not going to bid. We're going to buy it now. So you'll be able to buy all the new goodies Friday at noon, assuming it gets here in time for me to show it off to you. All right, I'm gonna get this leg painted over here real quick, and then I will go get my heat gun, and we will show you the magic of milk paint. You know, people always make jokes about it's so boring, you know, it's as boring as watching paint dry. I promise you will not feel that watching milk paint dry is boring. Or at least I can say I do not. It is literally one of my favorite things to do in the world. As crazy as that sounds. Because you never know what you're going to get. It's always a surprise. And I find that incredibly fun. I still cannot believe you are painting that table, says Sue. She says that because I love this table. And this was in our house for a long time. But you know, it doesn't fit in my house anymore, and I don't think it was going to sell the way it was. I'm sorry. I think you said to use a synthetic brush, not a natural brush. Is that correct? That is true for Fusion mineral paint. With milk paint, it doesn't really matter. But with Fusion mineral paint, it makes a big difference in the finish quality. All right, I'm getting my heat gun. I'll be right back. I have it here on the table, but I didn't think about where I was actually painting. So I'm going to need just a moment to get things fed in that direction. There's a little white table. Hang on, I'm moving some tables around in here. That's not going to work. Let's try it up here. See if I can use an extension cord. And without knocking over half a dozen things. Okay, I think I can. All right, guys. We're in good shape. Okay, so we're going to start here where this wax is. I want you to see the paint drying. I want to get you repositioned nice and close without my tripod falling over. You all see that? Okay. This is a good heat gun, so it shouldn't be too loud. I'm going to keep the heat gun moving because, as I'm sure you know, heat guns are often used to remove paint. Can you see how the resist works? One of the nice things about milk paint too is I typically find that I only need one coat, as opposed to most other things require 2 coats of paint. Now you do need to top coat over it, and I did bring some beeswax home to show you beeswax finish on this. All right, can you see See the chip, chip, chip happening there? You see how it's pulling off and resisting. Now, when we used to have the store, Linen and Rust, our staff would regularly, oh, I gotta see this here. Our staff would regularly come in and paint stuff and leave it to dry overnight. It's literally flaking off like snow. They would come in and they would leave little signs on things saying, Melissa, do not touch, because they knew that I love to pick the peeling paint off when it gets all cool and flaky like that. So the paint shrinks a little bit when it's drying, like I said. And as it does, then it starts to crackle and chip. You see it flying away? Okay. So this is kind of where we are. I'm going to show you this medallion part again. You see the medallion? You see all the little flecky pieces? So literally with my fingers, I can just knock those right off. No sandpaper required. See, it's stuck to some of it and not others. And so it creates this really cool chippy finish. Yes, this is a really pretty color. I agree. What do you guys think? You see where I added the wax and how it kind of didn't stick in places? I'll give you 10,000 foot overview here. You can see down the legs and in the corner. And then the same thing in this corner. And so really that's all there is to using milk paint. That's it. At the end, we can either put a top coat on it or we can finish it up with a wax. However you like. I tend to prefer a wax finish over this because it feels more original to antiques than throwing a top coat over it. I will at the end use a very fine grit sandpaper and give it a very light distress if you wanted to, and that's what's going to give it that super satin finish that it gets. And I don't mean satin like the actual finish sheen factor. I mean like it's going to feel like it's satin. It's really super soft when it is done. You can wet distress this product. I don't know why you would, because it kind of naturally distresses. Although if I felt like I didn't get enough of the medallion off, I don't want to do very much. I could use my wet rag and kind of pull some of it off there. I don't really want to do that. I like the natural finish that it creates on its own. And then, you know, you can use different waxes or glazes after it has a top coat. So, yeah, that's how you use it. I'm going to finish painting the whole table before I do any else kind. Also, if it doesn't get enough chipping effect, if you're not happy with, you can't go in and add more wax underneath. But what you can do is you can add another layer of a thicker coat. So you can mix up more with more powder. And the thicker the layer is, the more likely it is to chip. Because, you know, again, if you think about the binding, its goal is to bind to the surface, right? To bind with the surface. If you add some wax or something, then it starts to crackle. And if you add the resist and more, it'll flake right off, right? So if you make it thicker, then the cracks are going to be deeper and more likely to chip off. The heat gun also helps. It will chip even without a heat gun, but the beauty of the heat gun is it makes the resist happen faster because it dries faster and is more likely to crack. And if it cracks, it is more likely to chip. But that is how you get that kind of crazing crackle look sometimes, is by using the heat gun, because it speeds up the drying process and makes it crack in the process. I hope that you guys have enjoyed my tutorial. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to finish this table and go home where there is fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn waiting for me. But I'm going to finish this table first, and I may or may not finish decoupaging those last two drawers. I probably will because I really would like to have that project done, but we shall see. Um, Again, if you liked these products, you can pick them up in our Buy It Now section, or you can pick them up on our website if you like different colors. Kimberly. So I'm going to paint an antique table that's never been painted. Will the milk paint work and chip? Um, oh, you guys liked it. Thank you. I will try to do more. Okay, so no, it will not chip. If you are painting raw wood with milk paint, it will completely 100% absorb into the raw wood. However, this is what I typically recommend. You get you can either stain it. I hate staining, so I'd rather paint, or you get a milk paint that is the color stain that you like. I'm not sure what it is in Fusion. In milk in Miss Mustard Seed, it was always Curio, but you can even do a watered down paint like chalk paint or something like that to effectively stain it. Okay, but you want to um, darken the wood however you want, unless you want that raw look. And then after you do that, so that you have that color behind it, then you will absolutely have to apply a relatively thick layer of wax in places that you want it to chip. Raw wood is hard to get that natural chippy look um, because it's not old, right? Another thing that I have, and I will try it on something else to confirm this, but I have never had the experience where I've gotten cracking from any of the milk paints. I'm sorry, that I've gotten chipping from any of the milk paints. If I paint over Fusion mineral paint, I only get cracking, and it doesn't seem to matter even if I apply wax or whatever. If I do apply wax, I get more cracking, but I will try that again on another piece and see if I get the exact same results. And if so, I will tell you that I am pretty much confirming that you will get a crackle if you do Fusion mineral paint and then wax it and then do Fusion milk paint over that. That's probably what I would try. The only way to get the real true chippy is if you then wax the tape, like stain it, wax it, and then, but not a heavy wax, and then it will like almost do an uneven wax, and then it will chip in places, some places, and not in others. And places that you want that heavier chipping, you're going to add more wax to ensure that it doesn't stay. But this is all about a resist, and the resist either comes from what you put on it or it comes from the original surface. We'll do some milk painting on some true antiques so that you can see how it does it without any help on its own in another episode. Also, guys, I do tutorials on YouTube. So if you're not following me on YouTube, you can look up Vintage Bee Design there and see lots of tutorials there. We have hundreds of videos out using different products. Thanks, guys. Bye. Have a great evening. Oh, should we do a raid? I didn't even think about it. Because we're not doing that. I don't think we're gonna do a raid tonight. Do y'all want me to do a raid? Or are you good if we just move on? I think I'm just gonna end the show. I don't think a raid tonight.